There are some software features that are just so outstanding, they're a must to know. And in my opinion, the Show Hide button is one of those you must know items. So let me take you into this Word document, show you where Show Hide is, and then give you some examples of why it would be useful for you. So first of all, on my Home tab, down here in the paragraph group, there's a funny looking button that has a backward looking P on it. That's called the Show Hide button. And the keystroke to open it is Control, Shift, and the number 8. Now it says there that it's Control asterisk, which is true, but to get the asterisk, it's Shift and number 8. So Control asterisk will get you the Show Hide. Now I don't want to quite turn it on yet because I want to show you a few things down here in the work before we turn it on. I have a few problems like the space here between Word and 2013, and this just doesn't look right. The way these two cells look as compared to everything else, it just doesn't look right. And the Finding New Tools is not lined up appropriately. And so instead of just trying and using the trial and error feature, what I can do is turn on Show Hide and I can see exactly what's going on. So we're going to take a look at the Show Hide. So go back up to Home in the paragraph group and click on the Show Hide button. And what happens with Show Hide is you get to see the non-printing characters. So first off, I can see to the left of Word a little square dot, and the same thing to the left of New Features. That simply indicates that those lines have a style attached to them. So I'll click on Word 2013 Features, drop down Styles, and indeed heading 2 has been applied. So that's all that little square dot tells me. Now the dots in between the words, those dots in between the words indicate spaces. So I can see the problem here is somebody just got a little carried away with the space bar, so I'll just hit the backspace key until I have just one dot between Word and 2013. Now that fixed that spacing problem. This isn't a problem, but this marker here at the end is called a paragraph marker. And you'll see a paragraph marker at the end of every paragraph, and they are very essential. And let me show you why. Let me add in here in this paragraph, I'll add a paragraph marker. All I did was hit the Enter key on the keyboard. Now what happens is if I want this line, I'll just highlight it so you can see it. If I want this line to be centered, it behaves properly. The line I want centered centers. Paragraph marker says end of paragraph, go on to the next paragraph, and then that paragraph is left aligned just the way I would like it. Well, let me hit Control Z here on my keyboard to do undo. And instead, I'm going to do Shift Enter. Hold down the Shift key and do Enter. Now this is called a soft return. And manually you type that with Shift Enter. And there are reasons to use the soft return. But most importantly, I think, is the reason to share it with you is because when you copy information from an email or you copy information from the internet, a lot of times this is the type of return that goes into your Word document, and then it can cause problems. So I'll go back, I'll highlight that line again, and I want just that line to be centered. Oh gosh, here's what happened. The soft return simply says, separate these lines but keep everything in one paragraph. Now, paragraph formatting that you apply is going to apply to all of the lines, not just the line that you intended. And that's the reason for a soft return. And like I said, there are benefits of soft returns, but this isn't a benefit when you don't want it to behave that way. And so what I want to do is I simply want to highlight that soft return. I'll put an Enter in there, and now I'll hit Left Align for the paragraph that I'd like left aligned. And now you can see it's behaving the way I'd like. So the soft return and the hard return are completely different. Now reality, I just want to hit my backspace key. I'll put the space back in and I'll left align. So I put it back the way it should look, but it gave you some information there about hard and soft returns. Continuing down our page, what we have here is a table, and I can quickly see my problem inside the table. See, all of these cells here are aligned the way I'd like them to be aligned, and I can tell that everything is good here because this little shape, it's kind of a circle inside of a square without the edges of the square. What that shape allows is the end of the cell. It tells me that's where the cell ends. Well, look over here. At the end of this cell, there's an extra paragraph return. So I'm just going to hit the delete key to take that out. Now my spacing is accurate. And here, the Enter has been applied at the beginning of the line. So again, I'll take that out. And so now what I have is the proper spacing in my table, and I was able to identify that based on the fact that now I know what a return looks like and that little shape that indicates the end or the last typed item inside of a table cell. Let's keep going down to the next couple of items. There's a similarity here. Now let me turn off the show hide for just a moment so you can see how if you don't have the show hide turned on, the new features in Word 2013 and the cool things about Word to talk about but not new, they look very similar other than a spacing issue. They look very, very similar. Well, I have a problem here. Finding new tools, that's a problem, so I want to fix that. But I also want to identify the difference in the formatting here. So when I turn show hide on, first of all, these arrows indicate tabs. So I can see right away that my problem here is someone used 2 tabs rather than 1. So I'll click in front of Finding New Tools and I'll backspace that tab out of there. If I backspace too many times, whoops, let me just hit tab again, and now I've placed that back where it belongs. So a tab is indicated with the arrows. And if you've not used something called a bar tab before, this line, I can tell that's a bar tab. You can see it up here on the ruler by that identifier there, which is beyond the scope of this particular lesson, but it is why there's a line here. All right, and then you can tell the end of the paragraph because of the hard return. Now this next segment, what's happening here, okay, there's a hard return and then a space, but there's no tab marker and a hard return, and this indicates to me that columns have been used. Without the tab marker, the way that items are lined up in multiple columns has to be that someone utilized the tool in the insert, excuse me, it's not the insert, it's in the page layout for columns, and yep, there's 2 columns right there. It's indicating that we have 2 columns. Now another way that I can tell that this is columns is right here. It tells me that there's a section break continuous. That gives me an indicator as well. So as you can see, there are nice little paragraph markers that show you where paragraphs begin and end. There are arrows to show you tabs. There are little dots or spaces in between words that indicate if you have too many spaces or not enough spaces. And if you have a style applied, you're going to have a little square to the left. And I need to show you the table because this little shape right here is hard to describe. But when you have that shape, it indicates that the typing has ended on the table. And it's all being shown by using the Show Hide button on the Home tab, Show Hide. Now, before I leave this, let me turn it off, and I want to show you just a couple of extra little bonus features here. If I go into the File, it takes me to the Backstage, and I go into Options. Inside of Options, choose Display in the left column, and look at this column that says Always Show These Formatting Marks on the Screen. You can turn on anything here that you would always like to have show. So I always would like the tab characters to show, or I would always like, and if you turn on one of these check marks, then those features, whatever it is that you told it to show, will always show on your screen. Now, I don't want anything to show, so I'm going to go ahead and leave the default, except the object anchors. I do like my object anchors to always show. So let me go ahead and click cancel to turn that off. But I have a friend who loves to be able to see the paragraph markers. So that's what she has turned on. She only wants to see the paragraph markers. So turn it on if you like it. If not, turn it off. Now, one last little feature on your keyboard, hold down the Shift key and then hit F1, those F keys across the top. And this is a feature called Reveal Formatting. And Reveal Formatting is great. It's a great feature. It allows you to identify what's happening in text. So I have the word features just clicked into, and it indicates for me here what the font looks like, what the language is, what the paragraph formatting. You might want to take a scroll. It gives you so much information. Let me drop down section. See, it gives you all kinds of information about how this particular item has been formatted. So if you want to know what's behind the scenes, those non-printing characters, Shift F1, and the Reveal Formatting is going to give you multiple features. And now down here, you can also turn on Show All Formatting. It pops it on. You can toggle it on and you can toggle it off. So sometimes that's a bit faster. And then the last thing I want to talk about here on the, oh, excuse me. No, it's not the last thing. I have 2 things. I also want to show you the Distinguish the Style Source. It also tells you if there's a style. For instance, here, this line is heading 2, and it tells you heading 2. This is also heading 2. So it indicates for you if there's a style attached to it. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Now, the last thing, and it truly is the last thing, compare it to another selection. So this line is selected, and I want to compare that Now you'll have the same thing twice, but then you simply choose what you want to compare it to, and I clicked on the word object, so it's comparing it to object, and it says, well, the cool things about font is size 20, but the object is 14. Cool things is bold, object is not bold. So it'll have whatever's first in your list first, and then an arrow, and then the next item. So there's a compare here in case that there are two items that you want to know the difference between. Remember, you just click compare to another selection. It's either on or it's off. You toggle it on, you toggle it off. Wow, aren't those awesome tricks? So now what you're going to be able to do is turn on the show hide when you need it, turn on the reveal formatting when you need it, so you'll be able to identify what's happening in your document. Maybe there's a problem you need to fix. Maybe you just want to see what's going on. Well, now you know how. Use your show hide and use your reveal formatting.